I'm not starting this video off the way that I thought I would be starting this video off. I was sitting here, okay, in this car park, trying to get cozy. I've got my little matcha on the go. I went to Chipotle. I thought we could just like have a little, you know, drink and eat and a chit chat, which is what we're going to do, by the way. Then literally directly in front of me, I see this man walk to his car. You know, no big deal. I'm literally sitting in a car park. Like, that's not that weird. Basically, he opens his car door and his like pants are down and he's directing it. It looks like he's peeing into his car. This is why I was looking, because I was like very concerned. I was like, is this man peeing directly on his back seat? And then I see this puddle start to form on the ground. So he was peeing, yeah. So that's an interesting way to get settled into the video. I wish I could erase that. I wish that didn't happen. I didn't like see anything. And honestly, like, if you need to go, you need to go. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But there are literally bathrooms everywhere here, which is specifically why I picked to kind of sit and chill in this car park, because I didn't know how long we were going to be here or like how long this video was going to take. So I wanted somewhere that had like access to bathrooms if I needed to go. Oh, just baffling. But anyway, hi, welcome to the video. Guys, I don't really know what this YouTube channel is going to be. I'm kind of figuring it out as I go along the way and like hoping that people will stick around and watch as I figure it out. But because of that, I thought today we could do a like get to know me, my lore, spilling the tea type video. I don't know if it's going to be like that juicy, but we'll see. So if you followed me for ages and you just want to get to know me a little bit better, hi, welcome. If you're brand new and you have no idea who I am and you for some reason want to stick around and listen to me talk about my whole life story, welcome to. I asked for questions on Instagram, so that's where the questions are coming from. I have them on my laptop. And when I put them all together, I realized that there was like a couple main sort of topics that you were really, really interested in. The first one being living in LA. Like, how did I, a British girl, move from the UK to LA? How did I end up here? How do I find living in America? Like all those kind of questions. Then career questions. So questions about social media, like what jobs have I had? Am I a full-time influencer? Like, is this my job? I mean, I don't even really know if I know the answer to that question, but we'll get to it. The third category is like relationships. So my marriage, talking about having kids, things like that. And then we have some other like random miscellaneous questions too. So this video, I'm going to break it down into like 4 different parts and we'll dive in to the questions in that way. I feel like that makes the most sense. So the first question, and probably one that requires the most like chit chat, I guess, like, do you want to know the whole story? I guess if you're here, you probably do. But how did I end up living in the US? Why did I move to LA when I was 20? What basically brought me here where I am right now? Okay, how far back do I go for this? So I moved to America. I was about to turn 21 because I couldn't drink yet. This was in 2013, okay? It was after I graduated uni in the UK. I knew that basically I didn't want to go straight into a job. I found that out very early on when I was at uni and I was doing internships, and I was like, oh, this is like not as fun as I thought it might be. Basically, it was like, what else can I do? I don't want to go to London and get a job. What are my other options? Also, we have to remember and think back that 2013 was like definitely before the Instagram era as we know it now. So it was way less common for people to, I don't know, like, we didn't even really know what LA was like, okay? We only knew, and I say we because I'm talking me and my friends, because I originally came over here with girls that I went to uni with. Our only perception of what LA was what we'd seen on the hills. I loved the hills. I was obsessed with that. I ate that shit up. I wanted to live my own like Lauren Conrad life in LA. We just watched it and were really, really drawn to that, which I think a lot of people did who watched The Hills at that time. Like, it was very glamorized and it just seemed like a really cool place to live. So myself and my 2 friends, we started looking into different like visas that we could get. We were kind of thinking it was going to be like a gap year type situation. So a lot of people after they finish uni don't want to go straight into a full-time job and will like go traveling. There was a visa that we could get that basically would allow us as British citizens to come to the US and work for a summer. You could only work for like 3 months. It had to be during the summer and you had to be enrolled in uni. So it's kind of like a summer program. Okay, but during the process of applying for this visa, I basically found out I was an American citizen, which sounds like, how did you not know that already? I know that that is a bit like odd. Something happened where like the visa got denied, or I had to cancel the visa, something like that, because they were like, you literally don't need this visa, you're an American citizen, like what are you doing? Why are you even applying for this in the first place? So my dad is American. Okay. You think that that would be the first like indicator to me, like, hey, you know, you're an American citizen. I guess I just didn't know at the time that that is what that meant. I knew that he was American, but I didn't think that meant I was a citizen. I don't know. I was 19. I was dumb. I didn't listen to my parents. I thought it meant maybe I could apply for citizenship, or like if I wanted to get a passport, like I'd have to go through that process to like become a citizen. Like surely they don't just like let me in. I've lived in the UK my whole life, but no, apparently not. Apparently I already had a social security number. I already had a passport. I already had basically everything set up that I would need to move to America. So that was cool. But at this point, I still wasn't like moving to LA. I was going to LA for the summer with my friends just to work and have fun and have a grand old time. It's the summer of 2013. We come to LA. We have the best time ever. Like literally the best summer of my life. So much fun. Like I only look back on that time with the fondest memories. I got a job fairly easily, just like bartending. No, I couldn't even bartend because I wasn't 21 yet. So I was waitressing. I was making money from tips. This like blew my mind that you could just make money from tips and it would be like a really good salary. I was young. I was having the time of my life. It was a good time. But there also was just something about LA that I clearly was drawn to, or clearly like clicked when I got here, because I basically spent that whole summer like feeling like a completely different person than I've ever been when I was in the UK. You know, you're just so young and like naive, and just like things would work out. Like things would just go right. Even though I literally was living in an apartment with 13 people. It was a 2-bedroom apartment. There was 13 of us. But it was so much fun. Like so much fun. That to me now, living with that many people like would not be considered fun, but at the time, because I just had like literally zero life experience, everything was fun, everything was exciting to me. Now remember, my friends were on their visa, so their visa only was for 3 months. So basically at the end of that time we had to think, okay, well, what do we want to do? We didn't want to go back to the UK. Where else can we go? And we ended up going to Australia, because there was a visa that we could get that allowed us to go and live and work in Australia as well. But basically the whole time that I was in Australia, and I do wonder if I had been to Australia before I came to LA, if I actually would have had like a completely different experience. Like I had had such a good time in LA that then when I went to Australia, it was constantly like, oh, but in LA this, in LA that. And I wouldn't shut up about LA basically. People were probably like, can this girl just like chill? Because Australia is obviously an amazing country, but I was like, oh, it's not LA though, is it? I got a job waitressing, bartending in Australia. I wasn't making the tips that I was making in America. So that was like another factor that I was like, oh, in America, in LA, it's so much better because you make the tips. And there was just a lot of factors that made me like want to come back to LA. And because technically I was an American citizen, like I could go back. Obviously I was very like young at this time. So moving to another country just like by myself was not like something that I really considered doing. It was like I was just traveling with my friends and we were having fun. Then in Australia, I met my husband, or I didn't meet him there, but we like started dating when we were in Australia. And I basically was just telling him about how much I loved LA and how much like we should go back together. Through a whole other like visa situation to be able to get him to come to America, came back to LA with him. We got married, and we've lived here ever since. Does your accent change when you go back to the UK? My accent doesn't. I don't think. I don't know. Like, do I sound like I've got an American twang or something that then like when I go back to the UK it would be more British? I don't know. I don't think so. The main reason is because my husband is British too. So I think my accent has very much like stayed the same the whole time. However, his accent does change when he goes to work. When he like talks to people on the phone and stuff, but when we're with each other we're very much like have the same like British accent. But I do use a lot of American terms. Obviously I've lived here for 10 years and that started slowly and gradually, just things like trash or tomato or I don't know, the sidewalk. I will say when I go to the UK though, I tend to pick up on the British humour again, which I do think like I've always had within me, but I kind of like lose it a little bit when I'm in LA, just because I'm not necessarily like, that's not like the way that people like chat and banter and like go back and forth. In the UK, it's a lot more like sarcastic and self-deprecating, and like you kind of poke fun at each other, but it's all like in good humor. Whereas here, I don't know, it's just, the humor is just like a little bit different. I pick up on that a lot more when I go back to the UK, and then I'm that way for like a little bit, and then I just go back into my like American self, I guess. Do I miss living in the UK? No, I don't. I guess I told you that like I just loved being in LA and obviously felt drawn to it, but I didn't really explain why. And I think the best way that I can describe it, and this is like the main reason why I don't miss living in the UK at all. In the UK, there's just this like sense of dreariness, like dread. It's hard to describe because it's not necessarily like a thing that's like visible that you can see. It's just like the atmosphere is very low. People are drained. You go out and it's like everyone's having a bad day. Whereas in LA, it's like the opposite. You go out and the air is filled with so much like positivity and enthusiasm, and like everyone's having a good day every day. That energy is very like infectious, and I really, really love being around that energy. And I feel it when I go back to the UK, and I don't thrive in that environment. I find myself to be such a more like drained, low energy version of myself. And I always felt this way in the UK, even growing up, even as a child, but I just thought that was how I was. I thought I'm just a low energy person. I get tired really easily. I'm not that like energetic. I just thought that was how I was, until I then came to LA and was like in this other environment that my personality, I guess, like really thrived. It's almost like, okay, so you know, in the UK, for people who are British, who are there, when the sun is out, the UK is a vibe, okay? When it's sunny, people are out and about, they're having barbecues, they're having their friends over in the garden, they're going down the pub, and like everyone's positive, and like there's a sense of community, and everyone's like having a good time. But in the UK, that is only a handful of days out of an entire year. Whereas in LA, it feels like that energy is what you feel every day here. I say that today when it's like raining and miserable, but like this is rare, and still like I would go out and about now and it's just more uplifting is the best way to describe it. Do I want to live anywhere else? If life took me in a different direction, or some sort of opportunity came up somewhere else in the world that like makes sense and was intriguing and like I felt drawn to, then I wouldn't rule it out. Absolutely, I'd try living somewhere else. That just hasn't really happened, and I don't know like where that would even be. I don't have like a dream place that's like, oh my God, I'd love to live there. But right now I'm very happy in LA. Nowhere is like particularly calling my name right now. Okay, second category. Career. So this person wants to know about what jobs I've had, what my career goals are. And I want to talk about this question because I have had a massive shift in ambition pre and post grief. My mum passing away was like a huge factor in my ambition. I basically feel like I lost all ambition the moment that she passed away, and I'm still now like 4 years later trying to get it back. I've worked for myself for the past 5 years, I want to say, maybe longer. It was 2019. I got fired from my job. The second time I'd been fired from that job. They fired me once and then gave me a second chance, hired me back, and then fired me again. So I'm not particularly like that good at working for other people. So I went to school for fashion management and marketing. That's what my degree was in. I really enjoyed it. I found it very inspiring. I was very excited and ambitious for that to be a career path for me. And bearing in mind, this is when I was like 18. I feel like you pick what your degree is so young that like, how do you even know what you want to do for the rest of your life at that time? Like, you're basically a child. But my like dream goal would basically to be to work in the like head office, the like corporate of some like major fashion brand. Then as part of my degree, I had to do internships. Some of them I really liked, and some of them I just absolutely did not. And it was through doing these internships that I realized I don't want a job like this. I don't think that I could do it. I don't think I could go into the office, go and sit in front of like on a desk with, I don't know. There was one internship in particular where basically the person who was like overseeing me, he had the job that like I wanted to go into, and he was just so miserable. And I just thought, I don't want that as my life. So I left uni feeling very like confused about what my path was going to be. Like everything, where all my ambition had been, I didn't want to do that anymore. So where was that to go? So I spent a lot of time just not really caring and just wanting like an easy life, an easy job. I had fun bartending, waitressing. It was low pressure, it was chill, made like fairly good amount of money for my age and for like living in LA. At one point I literally thought that I was going to be doing that forever because I was like, I don't know what else I could possibly do. Like this is the only thing that I am like good at, I guess. I can't even that good though because I got fired. I did that for like 4 years. Then I randomly one day discovered reselling, thrifting items and selling them online. And I was obsessed, like instantly. I loved it. Going to the thrift store, finding something, like it gave me this like adrenaline rush, like picking out and like curating things that I thought people might like. And I basically turned that into a business. And all of a sudden, like all this ambition was back. I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I felt so driven by it. I wanted to be better and better every single month. I wanted to achieve more. I wanted to make more sales. I wanted to build and grow this business. I was like, I'm going to have like $1 million business, and I was just excited to like see where that could go and like where I could take it. And I really like thrived in this like business owner type role for myself. I was working for myself. I could make my own hours. I was like in charge of myself. I loved it. I honestly loved it. Then my mum passed away, and it was like instantly went from 100 to nothing. I just literally, from the moment she passed away, didn't care anymore. I had no interest in anything, and I went into like a really dark, deep depression. I think just her passing away obviously like puts things into perspective, and like you really think about what's important to you and like why do you even care about these things and why are you doing anything in your life. It's like you're questioning everything because the most important person to you is now not here. Like she's dead, she died. So like, why do I even care now about having $1 million business or like whatever I thought I was going to do with that business? I couldn't even get out of bed. So I definitely didn't want to be like working on this business. And I know for a lot of people during this time of grief, a lot of people actually can thrive on the distraction. So for some people, actually, that might have been really good, and that might have like really fueled them to channel all of that grief and all of those emotions into something else. But for me, it just made everything worse. Like when I was working on my business, I felt like I wasn't paying attention to my grief, and I hated that. I hated being distracted by anything else because all I cared about was like, my mum is not here anymore and I'm miserable and I don't want to get out of bed. So my ambition, bye-bye, it disappeared for a little bit. Then I started creating the kind of content that I do now. So helping girls who have a large cup size find things that fit. I was trying on a lot of stuff at the time myself, and I thought this would be like handy for other people to see. So maybe I should just like post it online and save other people the hassle of having to like find this stuff themselves. So I'm in a place now where I am starting to feel like excited about things again. But I don't know that like right now I have any like career goals because I don't know. I think I don't really care about a career at this exact time in my life. What I care about is just focusing on being happy. And as long as I'm going to like follow things that make me feel happy, like hopefully I'll make enough money. I don't know. What are my career goals? Who knows? Maybe I'll talk to you about it in another year's time. Okay, what is next? That kind of leads us into what motivated me to start creating content, and have I always created the same kind of content? So no, I started creating content around the thrifting business that I had. Basically, I just kind of was excited. Like every time I was going to the thrift store and I was like finding good, fun stuff, and I wanted to post that online and share that with other people. And I built an account in that way for a couple of years, really, until I then switched and transitioned to the kind of content that I'm doing now. That transition was like a little bit difficult for me because I think I just don't really know like how to evolve as a person online. It's like, I am this person and this is what I'm doing. Oh, I don't want to do that anymore. Okay, so just scrap all of that. Let me just like do this totally other like opposite thing. So I archived like all of my posts. There was no like transition period. It was like, no, I don't do that anymore. Now I do this. But what motivated me to start making the content surrounding having a larger chest and finding things that fit, to be honest, I wanted to start a business. I wanted to start a swimwear brand or an underwear brand, something catered to people who have a larger cup size, because obviously we know how hard it is to find stuff that fits. And I think at the time, like, I knew that I was struggling with finding things, but I didn't know, like, are there that many people out there who are also struggling with the same thing? And I thought I would just start making content around it. That way I can kind of use that as like market research to find people that struggle with the same thing, and also see like what kind of things they want, and like if this would be a viable business idea, which obviously then like I found a lot of people who struggled with the same thing and realized like how big of an issue it is for all of us, and have now like developed this community online and this place where people can go for recommendations or advice. But it originally started because I was thinking about doing a business. These questions are just flowing on from one another, because then the next question is, how is your swim brand going? Would you ever release a clothing bikini line for us with small band, large cup sizes? So yes, I would like to, and it is something that I have worked on for several years now. I would say the current update is it's on pause, and that is only completely my own doing. I haven't quite like pushed it across the finish line yet. And I think a lot of that comes back to the like ambition and drive that I was talking about before. There obviously is a lot that goes into building a brand, and a lot of challenges and things that you face along the way. And I think I was like, I'm just going to take it one step at a time and see where this goes. And I'm only going to focus on like, what is the very next step? I basically just realized through the process of doing that all the parts of it that I really enjoy as a person, and like the parts that I'm really good at, happen once you have a product. So I really like the branding and the marketing and the sales and everything that comes like when the product is created. Everything after that, like, yes, that is my, like, I'm in my element. Everything that comes before that, so developing the product, talking to the factories, going back and forth on like measurements and fit details, and like creating the product from an idea into like an actual viable thing that like is good. That whole process is not as fun for me. So I think doing that basically took a lot of the like fun and joy and excitement for the brand out of it a little bit. I think that ideally what I need is probably a business partner who then thrives on all of that side of things, so we can just like divide and conquer and like both be in our zone of genius. And I just don't know like who that person is, but also at the same time, like I don't think that I've made that much effort to go out and like find that person. So it is something that I still would like to do, but it's not currently like my top priority. I haven't done anything on it, honestly, in the past year. I have samples that have come from factories that then I just stopped working on, essentially, because I wasn't quite ready to be in my business owner era. Some of you might remember, but my husband is basically on a sabbatical at the moment. And I think that we're just both in this like sabbatical era. Even though I'm still working, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Will I wake up one day and just be like, right, now's the time, like, let's go? That hasn't happened. So I kind of just stopped talking about it because I felt bad, like letting people down by not doing this thing, because I know that people would really, really love it. And like with the help of you giving your feedback, and like, I know this is a product that people really want, and I know I could deliver on it. Like I could be the person to do that, to launch this brand for my audience, for you, for everyone that's struggling with finding things that work for a small band, large cup size. But I need to decide for myself that I want to do that and that I'm ready to do that. And currently I'm in a bit of a like, I don't know if I want to do that or not. So that's the update on that. Is social media my only job? Yes, I am a full-time influencer, even though I feel like I don't quite fit that category. I don't know. I feel like I don't really full-time influence in the same way that other people are full-time influencers, if that makes sense. But then it's also such a like vague career that like, what even are the requirements of that? I don't know. Yes, it is my only job. I do make an income from being an influencer online, but I don't feel like I'm quite like at the level of like what you would consider a full-time influencer to be, even though I do it full-time. That probably makes absolutely no sense. Oh my God, I kind of need to pee. I do still get lots of questions about why I decided to leave reselling, because some people have followed me for like all of that time. So if that is you, hi, thanks so much for being with me and staying with me this whole time throughout like many different versions of myself online. I'm glad that you're still here and you're still enjoying the content, even though it wasn't like originally what you signed up for in the beginning. But when I left, that was around the time that my mum passed away, and that had a big impact into it, that I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I don't even know that there was like a specific reason. I think it just like ran its course for me, is maybe the best way that I could describe it. I kind of knew that I probably wasn't going to want to do it forever. But when was like that stopping point? What did that look like for me? I think it was when I had launched something that I was really, really excited about, had spent a lot of time working on. And that day I should have been like celebrating and excited about it. And like all I did was just cry all day because I was so depressed. So this reselling business wasn't fulfilling me or helping me in the way that I kind of needed it to at that time. So I decided to just call it a day, give myself a little bit of breathing room, and then start something new. And I feel like this is something that has been sort of ingrained in me from childhood. It's definitely like a personality trait of mine at this point. I feel like I was always brought up with this kind of idea that if you're not enjoying it, you don't have to do it, which is sometimes a bad thing. But also I'm realizing now that I'm older, like this is actually a really, really good quality to have. So in some ways I would resent it because I thought like I'm not disciplined enough, because I'd always give myself like an easy way out, because I was never like forced to do anything as a child. I would obviously be encouraged to do things, but if I wasn't enjoying it, I didn't have to do it. That was kind of like the motto. We're not going to force you to do something you don't want to do. So I lack this self-discipline, because if I am not interested and I don't want to do anything, like, sorry, I'm out. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm okay with quitting. I'm okay with quitting. I don't see that as a failure. But I actually now realize that is a really, really valuable trait to have, because I think a lot of people stick at things for way longer than they probably would like to, because they're afraid to quit. They're afraid to leave it and start something else. Whereas I kind of have this more mentality of like, if it's not for me, I don't have to do it. I can go and find something else that I will enjoy. So just know, if I'm ever doing something, it's because I really want to do it, because I do not force myself to do things I don't want to do. Okay, I might actually go and pee. See, this is why I came to this car park, because I was like, I know I'm going to need to pee at some point, but I'm not going to just like step out the car and make a puddle. I'm going to go into the bathroom and I'll be back in a second. Okay, that's much better. I did get a little bit wet going outside in the rain. The next section of the video is all going to be about like relationship. Lots of people want to know how I met my husband, having kids, because I've said online publicly that I don't want to have kids. So that, you know, raised a lot of questions. So firstly, did I get married young? Because apparently I seem very young to have been having a 10-year wedding anniversary. Yes, I got married when I was 22. I do consider that to be very young to get married. It's only now that I'm older that I realize how young that actually was. But at the time, it didn't feel young. When you're 22, you feel like you know everything and every decision you make is the right one. Luckily, that one ended up being a good decision. But I do see how very easily it could have gone a different way because I was just so... I was a child, basically. We've both like grown up a lot in the past 10 years and have almost like evolved into different people. And I really value that, like, we've still grown into people that we still want to be with and we still like. Because I think from age 22 to 32, like, you could, as a person, like turn into someone who then like you're not suited for each other anymore because you're just so different. But luckily we both grew up not independently, what's the word, like personally, in a lot of ways, but also in our relationship in a lot of ways. And those things have like coincided. So it's worked out, even though I don't know that I would like recommend anyone getting married at 22 because it's very young. How did you and your husband meet? This is like a little bit of a long story, but I feel like this video is kind of long already. I don't know. I'm like, do I just ramble on and just tell the whole full story? I mean, maybe if you've made it this far in this video, like, you're probably sticking around. So we did go to the same high school and we're from the same hometown, but we didn't start dating until we met in Australia, you know, the summer after I'd gone to LA. But our paths did cross for a brief moment in time when I must have been like 18. Being from a small town in the UK, when you'd go out on the weekend with your friends, you'd see a lot of the same faces all the time. Like it'd be the same people going to the same bars. So he would go out with his friends. I mean, I say bars, there was literally like one place in the town that you would go to. So he would go out with his friends, I would go out with my friends. We'd see each other out and about that way. And I kind of like knew that I liked him, but we hadn't really like spent any time together until basically it was the day before he was about to leave to go to Australia. And that night, for some reason, I guess, you know, he was thinking, I'm going to Australia, I need to like spend time with this girl before I go. So we met up that night, and initially it was just going to be for like, I don't know, like an hour or two, just to like have a little chat before he went away. And we ended up spending the like entire night just up talking until like 6 o'clock in the morning. And clearly we hit it off. We didn't run out of things to talk about, but he was going to Australia, like literally getting a flight. I think he basically thought, well, there's no point in going home and like going to sleep now. I might as well just like stay up the whole night and then head off to the other side of the world. That night like definitely like planted the seed, obviously, but nothing could necessarily like happen because he was going away, I was at uni, we both had like different things going on. We both went our separate ways, we went off, lived very separate lives, did our own thing. And then 2 years later, I ended up going to Australia because I had to leave LA with my friends, and we were like, okay, where else are we going to go? Australia. And, you know, conveniently I was like, I kind of know someone that's in Australia. Maybe I'll send him a message. So I ended up messaging him like literally the day I got to Sydney, you know, asking for advice. Do you ever wish you could go back and like look at your first like Facebook messages with someone or something? It probably would be so cringe and you would just die of embarrassment, but it would also be maybe like kind of cute. So we ended up meeting up from that, and basically have been together ever since, and then got married and came and lived in America. But I actually think it was so good that it like worked out that way. I think if we had gotten together at the first like time, like when we went out in the car and we're just chatting for ages, you know, I don't know that it would have worked out the same way, because I think when we eventually then met up, we just had lived like so much more life, even though it was only like a couple of years when you're that young. So like it would have been for me from the age of 18 to 21, so 3 years, but just so much happens in the space of that 3 years, and you just like develop so much as a person, and like you kind of go off and experience the world, I guess, and like get into stupid relationships and do whatever, I don't know. So that by the time we came together, we kind of had done all that and like got that out of our system, and were like ready to be committed to each other basically. And we were married within a year of that. How did I decide that I didn't want to have kids? Initially, what I thought is that we would have kids eventually. That's what we both thought, because I think that you kind of grow up with this like path in mind that you go to school, you find a partner, you get married, you buy a house, you have kids. That's pretty much like the trajectory of a lot of people's lives, especially in my hometown where I'm from. We thought again that that would probably be what we would do, but we weren't ready for it yet. Obviously we got married at like 22. So we thought, okay, in like 5 years time, we'll be ready to have kids. So we don't need to worry about it right now. We'll just leave it to then. Then 5 years would pass and we'd be like, oh, no, I'm like still not ready. Maybe another 5 years, you know, when we just kept like delaying it and delaying it and delaying it until eventually we're at the point now where it's like, is that something that we even want to do? And I've had like a lot more honest conversations about it now, rather than just like having it as be this thing in the future that we don't need to think about and we can just like push it off. Now it's like, okay, no, let's actually talk about it. Like, is this something that we want to do? And I wouldn't say I'm 100%, but I'd say I'm like 99%. I don't know what that one little percent is. I guess just because it is more uncommon to decide to not have children. And I don't know like what that looks like for our future. But I know that I do not want to have a child right now. I'm not ready. I've never felt any sort of like maternal instinct, or it's never been anything that I've like desired or wanted to do. And I think I've just been waiting for that moment to kick in where it's like, oh no, like I want to be a mother and I want to raise a child and I want to do all these things. And it's just not something that I've ever like wanted to do. And that's not to say like if it happened like that I wouldn't enjoy it and be a good mother. Like I think I would, but I don't like really want to do that. And like I said earlier, I do not make myself do anything that I don't want to do. So If I'm having a child, it's because it's something that I really, really want. And that's just not the situation for me right now. And I don't think it will be. Okay, this is a question that disappeared, okay? But I remember it was there because I know exactly who asked it. This question was from Emily, and she was asking, how is life in your 30s going without kids? It looks great, or it looks like fun, something like that. And it is very fun. I am very much enjoying my life and my lifestyle at the moment, and just having all of my time to spend on myself or my relationship or my work, not having that time going to raising a child. I think we look at the lifestyle that people who have children, like, what does their life look like? Because if we wanted to have children, like, you know, our life might look fairly similar, and we look at that and it's not something that we want. I don't know. It's almost like you're kind of made to feel a little bit bad that you don't want kids. Like, I feel guilty for saying I don't want kids. Like, I just want my life to be for me. I don't know, probably need to like work on that self-belief a little bit. I do feel confident in that decision with myself, but then like saying it out loud and like admitting that to other people, I feel like, oh, people are going to think I'm like really selfish, or I've got no heart. I'm just like a cold, stone cold like person. But I couldn't imagine what my life would look like with children. I like how it looks now, and I would be very happy if it looked like this for the rest of my life, to be honest. Okay, last category, which is the like random miscellaneous category. Basically questions that didn't fit into those other ones, but there's still some really, really good questions here. So someone would like to see a day in my life. What does my life look like? I think a big reason why I wanted to start this YouTube channel is because I would love to show more day-to-day, like mundane things like that, and just bring you guys along for the journey of what my life is, like what it's going to become. I don't really know at this point, because I've only posted a couple of videos so far. I feel like most of them have just been kind of me like practicing or testing or like seeing what kind of content I want to create, and it's made the most sense to kind of film these like bigger things, like us going to San Francisco or going to Vegas. I guess I've been maybe like a bit too hesitant to film just like a random day, because I'm like, what, like, how am I going to make this interesting or something that people want to watch, essentially? But I see my content more being the everyday, like the a week in a life type thing, rather than like those big moments, because those big things don't happen all the time. And letting people into your life and your journey is so much more about just like the everyday things, I guess. And I want you guys to be a part of that as well. So I'd love to film a day in the life. I just haven't done it yet because I'm like, oh, is that a bit too boring? I don't know like how I'm quite going to do that. But I think I need to just pick up the camera and like do it, right? Like that's the main thing, is like just documenting and then figuring it out after. So stay tuned. Probably not like the next video, but some video soon I will do like a boring day in the life. How did you get into running? I'm so intimidated by it. To be honest, the biggest thing that started my running journey was grief. I basically was recommended from a therapist to do things that my mum liked to do as a way to feel connected to her. And one thing that she really loved to do was run. She ran half marathons, 10Ks. She even came to LA and did a 10K once, but at the time I just like wasn't into running, so I didn't really like show too much interest, and I do kind of regret that now. But at the time I didn't know any better. But I definitely started small and built up along the way. Like obviously it's going to be intimidating if you're seeing people running marathons and half marathons and doing these like big challenges. I literally started by running 1 mile. That was it. Can I run 1 mile without stopping? And then eventually brought that up to 2 miles. I use this like technique. I feel like I need to give it a name, but it's basically just like the song technique where you see how many songs you can listen to. So when I was running and I really felt like giving up, I would think, can I just make it to the end of this song? And then once I made it to the end of that, I think, right, what about this next one? This next song, it's probably like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Can I make it to the end of this next one? So I wasn't like measuring my runs in terms of distance or pace or time. I was measuring it in terms of like how many Taylor Swift songs could I get through? Could I make it to a track 5? That was essentially what I was doing. I would put on an album and see what track I could make it to. And then I just like built it up from there. And I think when you start running, like you get like the bug for it, like the running the running bug, because to me it gave me such a sense of like achievement and accomplishment in this time where it felt like my entire world had just like crashed and crumbled into the ground and I was going backwards in life. Everything felt like it was taking a step backwards, and running was the only thing that I felt like I could see some sense of progress and achievement. When a lot of like progress in the world is not necessarily tangible, something like running is. Every time you like run a little bit further or you go a little bit faster, it's like gives you this dopamine essentially, because you're like, oh wow, I did that. Like I can see progress. And it's not always linear. Like obviously sometimes you go out and you run and you're way slower and you're way faster, but like, I don't know, there's always this sense of achievement with it for me. And that's what's like kept me going with it and is why I run so much still now to this day. So I definitely would recommend getting into it, and you can just start slow. Just go out, see if you can listen to one song. Okay, one song the whole way through, do a slow little jog. Then the next time you go out, see if you can make it to 2 and let me know how you get on. Have I ever thought about getting a breast reduction? I knew there'd have to be some question in here that was going to be related to having big boobs. Yes, absolutely. I have thought about getting a reduction. I think that if you have a larger chest and you haven't thought about getting a reduction, that's probably like way more rare. I would say the majority of people do consider it because there are a lot of struggles that we face that we think like it would just be so much easier if we had a reduction. We'd be able to find clothes that fit better, or we wouldn't feel so uncomfortable in our body, or we wouldn't be sexualized just for like existing and having a larger chest. So yes, I definitely have considered it, but this was definitely way more when I was younger. I basically had kind of convinced myself that I had saggy boobs when I was like 14. I was 14 thinking I'm gonna have a breast lift when I'm older. Like, what? That is just so insane that we're like thinking about our bodies in such a negative way at that age. I thought I just had really like horrible saggy boobs, and the truth is I didn't. I just had larger breasts and they just sit in a different way than someone with a smaller chest. But I've kind of reached a place now where like I actually like my body. I like how it looks. I like having curves. I think it looks good. I did like a whole TikTok talking about this, so I'll link it in the description so you can go. I don't remember like exactly what I said, but it was basically along those lines that like I don't want to alter and adjust my body and like go through like a major surgery just for all these like things that are not my problem. Like it's not my fault that I can't find clothes that fit. That's like the fault of the people who are making the clothes. So why should I like alter my body because they don't want to accommodate like other body types? It's definitely complicated, but I think at the end of the day, like I like my body and I have acceptance over that. So like I don't want to change anything about myself. I don't want to change anything about myself. So I think that's where I'm at right now. Okay, the final question. We made it to the end of the video. The last question is, if you could only shop at one place for clothes for the rest of your life, where would it be? I feel like this is maybe obvious if you have seen a lot of my videos, because you know there are certain brands that I repeat buy from again and again and again because I clearly like them a lot. But this is tricky because obviously if you're only buying from one brand forever, is that everything? Is that swimwear? Is that underwear? Is that shoes? And I could probably pick a brand for each of those different things. But if I could only pick one, it would be Reformation. Like hands down. I think that Reformation just embodies my style the best. And I don't even really know like what my style would be called. I basically just like wearing cute dresses, but I don't know that what is the vibe of my style. I have no idea. And I know because I've heard from a lot of you that you haven't had the best luck with Reformation, but honestly I find like so many dresses from there that fit me really well. I think you just have to know like the right styles and the right fabrics to go for. They have this really nice like knit fabric that's very thick and it kind of like snaps you in, and they make it in like tops and dresses and everything. Nothing hits like a Reformation dress. Like when I put on a Reformation dress that's the right like style for my body type, it just makes me feel 10 out of 10. I just love them. I made a whole section on my Shop My just with all my Reformation favorites. So if you're interested in that, I'll link it in the description. Every single thing on that link I like have in my closet and wear all the time. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully that was like fun or interesting to get to know me a little bit better and get to hang out for a little bit. I want to say thank you so much for all the support on my YouTube channel so far. Obviously it being such a new thing and these videos having such like a smaller community and people watching them than my other content, I've really loved that because it feels like the people who are here, like you here who are watching this video all the way to the end, you're here because you want to be here, not because this video has just been like thrust upon your algorithm and What is this car doing? Why park right next to me? The whole car park is empty. Maybe they just don't know how to park. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed watching. Yes, like basically because this video has not just been thrust upon you, I feel like I'm really enjoying the fact that the people who are here because they want to be here. And I just really, really appreciate that. And thank you a lot. I'm just too much of a paranoid person. This man, he's fine. He's fine. He's just going over to do his shopping. And this clearly was like the most convenient spot for him. Anyway, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye.